Does taking a 4-week vacation sound scary or impossible to you? Does it make you feel anxious or guilty? Well, Dr. Sabrina is going to talk with us today about how to take a 4-week vacation in 2026. And we just want to drive home the reason why you need to. So, Dr. Sabrina, I'm just going to let you pick it up from here.
Absolutely, Melissa. So, one of the things that I know comes up for so many business owners, as soon as you hear 4-week vacation, you think that is an impossibility. Like, there is no way I could do that. My entire business would fall apart and it would quit growing. And the number one thing I want is for my business to grow. So, why would I ever think about taking time off from my business when I want it to grow? And that's the irony, the biggest irony about the 4-week vacation process is our businesses grow and do better when we take time off from the business. And we're going to dig into that because our promise is when you join our Better Business, Better Life program, within 12 months' time, we will get you to a fully unplugged 4-week vacation if you just give us 5 hours a week. And that's where you're working on the business. And so I want to break it down today around what does that really entail. And the first thing I want you to be aware of is that as a business owner, we are not working from our strengths and our zone of genius the majority of the time in the business. Like, we're working and we're doing all kinds of things, but most of what we're doing are $10 and $50 an hour activities. And we really need to shift and start thinking about our time as being worth $10,000 an hour. So, by the way, we just have a brand new upgraded how to make your time worth $10,000 an hour 30-minute training. You can go to tapthepotential.com/10K and download my chart of $10,000 an hour activities. This becomes a tremendous delegation tool for you and your team members. So we've got to remember that if we have A players on our team, we want to retain them and we don't want to lose them. The number one thing that A players crave is opportunities to grow and advance. So every time you are doing a $10 or $50 an hour activity, you are creating a glass ceiling in your business and you are stifling the growth of your A players. That's it. Like, I can't tell you any more bluntly to stop it. Cut it out because you are destroying what you are trying to create when you take on tasks that you shouldn't be doing.
That's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. I remember taking over the podcast, and it was one of the coolest things I've ever done at Tap the Potential. You trusted me, you believed in me, and we did it so that you could extend time off. And when I got in, and all of the systems were already set up, and I know you're going to touch on that, but it made me feel so alive, and it still does. And it's Dr. Sabrina's trusting me with her baby. Like, how cool is that? And all of the administrative tasks that you were doing on the back end, that was just not in your zone of genius.
No.
And it was, a $10 or $50 an hour activity that you needed to take off of your plate. And I love how our team came together and supported that. And we've systematized it and streamlined it just on and on and on. And that's a perfect example of you giving something to your team so that you can focus on those $10,000 an hour activities.
Absolutely. To understand what goes into podcast production, there's a lot. And when I handed this off, I didn't just hand it off to Melissa. Well, I did. I said, take it, because I had to be out. Like, I didn't have time to plan anything in that instance. And what came out of that is now we have 3 members of our team involved in podcast production. So prior to me handing it off, it was just me doing it. And I was doing $10 and $50 an hour activities and some $10,000 an hour time, but it was really getting washed out in there. And now we have 3 team members, and you guys have streamlined this process. Heather on our team has done an amazing job with making sure we have podcasts booked out, I think 2.5 months in advance now. In the past, we were always like, next week's episode, we got to get that out. I got to record it on Friday so it can drop on Thursday, the following Thursday. And so this is a prime example of how when we get out of the way and we delegate effectively, and we're going to talk about effective delegation in just a minute, but when we delegate effectively, things go better. And our podcast listenership has grown. Our clients are getting more and more value out of the podcast because Melissa actually has thinking time to create the episodes based on keeping her fingers on the pulse of what our clients are talking about and what's needed. So that's something I didn't have because I didn't have the bandwidth for that. And so we need to be able to delegate effectively. So I want to talk about effective delegation and how this ties into planning your 4-week vacation. So to effectively delegate, we have to have a result that the team member is going to be responsible for. They're going to own this result. And it was real simple. The result that we're looking for with the Profit by Design podcast is for our listenership to continue to grow. That's it. That's all Melissa needs to accomplish. And however she wants to do it, that's on her. And the system that I handed off, yes, there was a system in place that was handed off. It was very clunky, way too detailed because I'm a leader task and I can really get into those tasks. Melissa came in and said, oh no. And Heather too, like this has to be simplified. This is way too much. And so that whole process has been simplified. And I'm fine with that because number one, it takes less time on our team to accomplish the result. And Melissa is getting the result of our listenership is continuing to grow. And that to me indicates we are serving you. You are getting value from what we're sharing. So when we delegate, we want to have a clear result we're looking for. We want to have a metric, and we have multiple metrics that we look at with the podcast. But we have a key metric that Melissa is paying attention to. And as long as that metric is moving in the right direction, all is good. So when we can delegate with that confidence of, hey, Melissa, if you can't get anything else done this week around the podcast, here is the key piece to pay attention to. She knows if she gets really busy and can't get it all done, like, here's the piece we've got to dial in. Here's what we've got to focus on. So that takes tremendous pressure off of Melissa. And Melissa is like most of your A players in your team. She has multiple areas of the business that she's responsible for. She's our lead strategist. We have a 95% retention rate of our clients. Melissa drives that metric. Like, she's responsible for that. So she's got a hat on the podcast as heading the podcast up, but she's also our lead strategist. So she has these 2 major responsibilities on the Tap the Potential team. And she knows how to prioritize her time around those 2 key metrics. And that is the big piece when it comes to delegation is your A players need to know how to delegate themselves, because Melissa's role is huge. And if she tries to do it all herself, she's going to become less and less effective in her own $10,000 an hour activity. So she has permission to continually be working with Amy, who's our integrator on the team, to take things off her plate and delegate down. We just had a level 10 meeting yesterday, and identified Kylie, who's my daughter. She works on the team. She does all of our social media. Shout out Kylie. Um, so she posts for the social media. Caitlin and Emma produce the content, but Kylie posts it. Kylie has a lot of time on her plate and she wants more work. And so we were looking at, gosh, what can we take off of Melissa that Kylie can do? What can come off of Caitlin that Kylie can do? And all of that comes from that chart of $10,000 an hour activities. Like, it's not Caitlin's best, it's not the best use of Caitlin's time to be putting posts on social media. It's great for Caitlin and Emma to produce that content, but Kylie can put that post out there. And that's giving Kylie opportunities to grow. She's learning great skills. She's going to be doing our client wish list interviews coming forward. So that gives her an opportunity to learn a lot about business and what business owners need and what really matters in the world of business, which is, she's in college. So she wants to get exposure to these sorts of things. So this is how you start setting up your 4-week vacation, is the delegation. But there's a few key pieces. As you look at putting a 4-week vacation on your calendar, when you're in our Better Business, Better Life program, we're going to ask you to block the time because that creates accountability. And then we're going to ask you to tell your spouse or your significant other because that also creates huge accountability. But then you need to back it up and you need to do vacation tests throughout the year. So you're not going to just take 4 weeks off. You're going to be taking other vacation time throughout the year and building up to this 4-week vacation with your team. So we really start you looking at what is the longest you've been able to be away fully unplugged from your business. And if that is an evening, like you can't even unplug for an evening, we're going to get you unplugging for an evening. Maybe it's 2 days. So we're going to ask you to unplug for 3 days. And then we have to look at, okay, what is going to fall through the cracks if you are fully unplugged for 3 days? And we get that list. And then we look at who on your team can you delegate this to? And sometimes business owners say, there is no one. Everybody is at capacity. We're all full. Well, then we have to look at what your team members are doing that they can stop doing. Mm. This is a very powerful question. Like, what are we doing as a company that we could just stop? And when you're in our sweet spot, anything that is not related to the sweet spot can stop totally. And so talk about like cost savings immediately starts to happen in your business because you see expenses that can be cut. You see things that come off of team members. And then a lot of business owners say, well, I don't want to have to hire to delegate my $10,000 an hour activities because hiring is such a long, tedious process. Chances are you don't have to hire right away. You need to fire some warm bodies off your team, organize that business around the sweet spot, which we support you in doing, and then shift the work that supports the sweet spot onto your A players that you have. And maybe you only have 2 A players besides yourself. Shift it, and we're going to support you into shifting things onto them. And when you start hiring, now you're going to hire at the most entry level in your business, which is the lowest cost of hire. And we're going to help you with our How to Hire the Best system to put a system in place to simplify and make that super easy to hire A players in those entry level roles. And then they have immediate opportunities for advancement as they prove themselves in the business because you're delegating things that are not $10,000 an hour activities off your plate and off your team members' plate. And so this is how in the course of a year, you come in and you're in this place of, I have business debt. I have crappy team members. I have maybe one good team member, but everybody else just makes my stomach turn. I don't think they're capable of running things without me. Like everything flows and depends on me. I don't know how on earth you guys are going to get me to a 4-week vacation. This sounds like it's too good to be true. And now you're telling me my business is going to grow and be better. Absolutely. It's going to grow and be better. It's going to be more profitable because you are going to get rid of a lot of waste in the business and it's more streamlined. And a business that is that streamlined is easy to hire A players and put them in roles so that they can take things off of you. One of the reasons it feels so daunting to be away from your business currently is because your business isn't streamlined. There's a lot that lives in your head and maybe a couple of other team members' heads, which actually is creating mental clutter and baggage that is keeping the team bogged down. And I know, Melissa, you really wanted to talk about how valuable it is for the team members when they're in a business that the business owner is working on a 4-week vacation.
Yeah, business owners usually feel guilty. They feel like their team is going to see them taking that 4-week vacation and judge them for it. And that's just not the case. The truth is, when you consistently take 4-week vacations from your business, you create sustainability for your team members. So if you're able to step away for a month at a time, your team members have job security. And they're coming to a great culture because you're rested. So the really cool thing about this too is when you step out, Dr. Sabrina, it's my chance to shine. I don't have you to fall back on. And I really think even deeply for myself. That's when innovation happens. And I miss you like crazy when you're gone. But when you are gone, it creates the opportunity for me to have new ideas and new thoughts and create solutions. Or I will say it. I like to create new things. So my Q1 goal is to just be fully present and create nothing new. And there's going to be beauty in that. But I just love having that time, first off, where you trust me to show up. You trust our entire team to show up, and you've taught us and given us parameters around making decisions while you're away. And that's really cool. It empowers us, but also it's just an opportunity for me to have space and trust in myself and not have you to rely on and lean on. And always, every time you come back, like there's something cool that has happened. And I just appreciate that so much. I appreciate the autonomy. I appreciate the trust. And I appreciate knowing that we have a business that can survive if you do need to be away for a while. That gives me job security.
Yeah, that piece around the freedom to innovate, that's what keeps our A players engaged. Mm-hmm. The sustainability that gets created as we stop trying to do everything ourselves gives our A players so much peace of mind because they know they work in a business that will continue even if we can't be there for some reason. And we never know what's going to happen to us in life. You could have an accident and be out for months. Mm-hmm. And your team needs to know everything is going to be okay. And that peace of mind allows people to calm down and show up and bring their best selves to work. And that's really been a theme that we've been talking about on the podcast, is how to create these safe, supported environments and how to engage your A players in being your strategic thinking partners, because we need our team members to think like business owners, which again creates more sustainability in the business. And that's where our courses, like our Coach Approach course that's coming up at Tap the Potential, is so valuable to the business. And because you, the business owner, can go through it and you can learn how to have these coaching conversations that get your team members thinking deeply about how to solve issues that come up in the business in your absence. But you can also have your team members go through Coach Approach with you. So maybe you have a couple members on your leadership team that also go with you through Coach Approach. So now you have multiple strategic thinking partners. And this takes the weight off of you to solve all the issues, right? Because right now it probably feels like every issue that comes up lands on you and you have to figure it out. And maybe there's 20 things every day that are coming at you that you have to sort and figure out, which is exhausting. Oh my gosh, it's so exhausting. When you have A players who have been trained to be your strategic thinking partners, you can delegate or you can just say, hey, we've got these three things. I need some help in thinking through how we're going to handle this. And that really builds this culture of we are in this together and we have a business that is sustainable. So, right now, if everything is running through you, you're carrying all the decision making and you're trying to grow your business, it's a losing game. Like, you can't win this game this way. You cannot keep playing this game in this way and expect to win. And chances are you've been doing this for years now and you're not seeing a better result. And so it's time to cut it out, play a different game, play a better game of designing that business that's going to be sustainable and inviting your A player team members into being your strategic thinking partners. So our coach approach is starting in January. You want to be in it. You want some A players in it with you because you want to make things different for yourself in 2026. So make sure you're registered for Coach Approach. Go to tapthepotential.com/coach approach. tapthepotential.com/coach approach.
I want to call out one more thing as we wrap up, and that is when you take time off regularly, you are creating safety for your team members to take time off, for them to show up as a strategic thinking partner, and for them to really shine in their role and continue to be that A player that they are. They need to take some time off as well. So I highly encourage you to, I'm going to throw out a few resources here because they're all important. If you haven't read the 4-Week Vacation book by Dr. Sabrina, go grab that right now. And there's so much information in that book that will support you to create a sustainable business. Coach Approach was shared. Best gift you can give your team ever. Extremely important. And you don't have to do this alone. You do not have to do this alone. We walk you through this step by step. And the cool thing about being in our coaching groups at Tap the Potential in our Better Business, Better Life program is we give you a behind the scenes of how we have accomplished all of this. So you hear some great tips on the podcast. And when you join our coaching program, we are coaching you through all of this and helping you set it up. And then we're also saying, here's what real life looks like. We've gone through that school of hard knocks, so we're going to help you figure it out. And it's very valuable. So, and then I highly recommend you go over and grab our 10K downloads. So how to really focus on those activities that are worth $10,000 an hour, not just for you, but for your team as well, so that you can hit that 4-week vacation. And you can find that resource at tapthepotential.com/10K. Thank you so much, Dr. Sabrina. This has just been so fun to share. And I appreciate you and all of the wisdom that you've had going into writing the book and supporting our clients and our team, but really giving people a better life as well as a better business.
It's all about that better life. So I'm happy to do that.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you.